Ash Grunwald, welcome to Australian Musician.
Thank you.
New album coming out on
Yep.
August 30 called Mojo. It's probably one of the most appropriately named albums. It couldn't be titled anything other than Mojo, I don't think.
Aha, that's cool.
How did you come up with the name?
Well, yeah, I had a long list of names, and I've written a song called Mojo in the past about getting one's mojo back when it was stolen. And I think, my last couple of years have been about rebuilding and getting my mojo back, having spent a good chunk, and I'm going to call it maybe a first half, or if I live a very long time, a first third, a first epoch of my career, and up to my 10th album sort of thing. So I just needed to regroup a little bit, and there is quite a story associated with this album, but it was lost, and we were able to, at the point of starting to turn things around in my life and in my career and get that mojo back. Part of that was sort of exemplified or brought into being by getting that album back and being able to get that out. So yeah, that's Mojo.
It's been 5 years since the last album. 3 of those years you spent in Bali. How significant was that stay in that country?
Absolutely, very significant. I kept playing throughout that time, and when the album was lost, I was also working on building a career in America and Canada and different things, and a few different things just fell away, and just had, in life, it's entirely possible sometimes to have bad luck compound on bad luck on bad luck, and a few different things happen, and I was just like, let's go to Bali. We were building a house here in Australia, and we could have rented around the corner, and we thought, why don't we just rent in Bali, and I'll just still play in Australia. And then we had a bit of a life change. We were, when we first went to Bali, there was a bit of the party lifestyle still in us. That's me and my wife, and we turned that around at the start of 2018 and just sort of started to get really kind of focused on building our dreams, really. So at the start of 2018, we quit alcohol and I started practicing guitar like a madman, and then we got that album back and turned it around. But Bali was just, such a spiritual place. The people are just so nice, and it's a really great place to turn, like, if you want to get in good habits. If you want to get in bad habits, you can go to Bali. If you want to get in good habits, you can go to Bali. So for me, it was a really good place of like surfing every day, getting really fit, getting in a good routine, just sitting around playing my instrument a lot, and just being away from the West. It was just really cathartic.
There are special guests on almost every track. Was the album always going to be like that?
Yeah, that was the idea. So there was a fella from America who originally for those LA sessions flew me over there, and his idea was for me to do, he was a fan of my older stuff, the previous albums that were always taking bluesy kind of music and mixing it with other things. But he was like, now it's time for you to do a little bit more of a straight down the line blues album to introduce you to an American audience and a worldwide blues audience. So that was the idea, and he got me together with some absolute legends, and the band itself that I played with were all they're some of the best rhythm section players out. Like Reggie McBride, he started playing with Stevie Wonder, and just gone on all huge albums like Elton John and Rod Stewart, that kind of stuff, and all of the bluesy stuff as well. And then the drummer Alvino Bennett, he started with Willie Dixon, and he had just a few years before that played in Slash's band, and then the keyboard player Barry Goldberg played with Dylan at Newport Jazz with that famous time that he went electric and got booed, and then Barry had his keyboard, the cord to his Hammond cut. So there's a lot of really great stories. And then for me, the highlight of those sessions was getting Terry Evans, who's no longer with us, who sings on a lot of the tracks. African-American guy from Mississippi, who was on those recordings that Ry Cooder did in the late 80s when I was an impressionable little kid. And I think it was probably his singing that moved me and influenced me so much in blues. So that was amazing to get him on the album. And then later we got Kim Wilson, who's kind of like, you know, him and Charlie Musselwhite are probably the main big harmonica players in the world. And Joe Bonamassa, of course, that was huge on the guitar level. And then, yeah, from Australia, when we got the album back, you know, I was able to get the Teskey brothers, who I love, on the album, and that was really cool. And Casey Chambers and Mahalia Barnes, and my good friend and hero from Melbourne, Ian Collard, on harmonica and singing. And a few others on there too.
The Teskey Brothers track, Ain't My Problem, that sounded like a fun track to record.
Yeah.
Were the guys in the studio with you for that one?
No, we did it in a different way. They brought way more to it than, you know, initially I just, you know, Josh's vocals, my God, just so amazing. And that was my main focus, to get them on the album. But I had recorded it like a solo track. And they added to it, and it was really cool what they did with it, because they've got their own analog, beautiful recording setup. So they added a whole band to it. And we left it solo at the start, and then Josh comes in, and then the whole band comes in, and the whole thing lifts and becomes this other thing. But it was a big honour for me to have those young cats on there, and it's good for me at this stage in my career to start seeing some kids or some younger people who they saw me play first before I actually had albums out. We grew up in the same area-ish in Melbourne. Out near, well, they're from Warrandyte, and I grew up in North Croydon and a few different. So I was playing at the St Andrews pub when I was in my early 20s, and they were 10 busking over the road. And it's funny, now they're travelling the world and killing it, and such an amazing band. So we've got a real connection as soon as we met each other. So it's really cool.
Whispering Voice is the track with Casey Chambers. How far back do you and Casey go?
Well, we go back quite a way too, because we're the same age. So, you know, we've both been in it she'd be in it, probably been in it for a little longer than me, but, you know, I've been playing music for 20 years, so we've known each other for quite a while. And then I ended up getting her up on stage at Blues Fest. The first track on this album I wrote for this album. It's called Hammer. And I asked her to get up at Blues Fest with me and sing that. She ripped it. She was amazing. And that's the thing about this album. That's a song I've been doing for 5 years, but I wrote it for this album that's just out now. So, yeah.
Is there any song that's closer to your heart on the album than others?
Well, Hammer's very close to my heart. You know, I'm from Melbourne. I wrote it about, the first verse, I'm remembering my granddad, who was from South Africa, who taught me how to play guitar and stuff, but he was a foreman, and we used to be working away there, and he'd say, "Come on boys, let's strike a blow." And I come from a long line of builders, actually, so that whole born with a hammer in my hand kind of thing is a bit of a theme. So Hammer's a bit of a close one, and also Terry Evans' sublime Mississippi sort of backing vocals, because also that motif of the hammer, I took that from the song that was a work song, the song of John Henry, Working on the Railroads. And I was teaching my kids about that too, and slavery and stuff. I always try and teach them about that. And us being coloured South African, half of our heritage, you know, those people were brought to South Africa as slaves as well. So we have a bit of that in our culture too, in our heritage. So that's sort of maybe what's drawn me to some of that African American music. So that's a really important song for me.
We have discussed before the Melbourne Guitar Show, we had a big chat about the Pratley guitar, the signature guitar that you have. But just quickly, what are some of the instruments that you played on this album?
Well, I'm really excited about that Pratley coming out, and we had the prototype, that I was playing, and then we've made some tweaks to it to make it more of like a 3-3-5 kind of thing. So I can't wait to be playing that thing. And I've been playing solidly for a year a D'Angelico that was given to me when I was over in America doing my book, and it kind of came from doing my book actually through the surfers that I was interviewing, who D'Angelico was hooking them up. So I got a hook up through that, through Steph Gilmore and Kelly Slater. And I love that guitar, and that's on all the imaging. But I played mostly a Les Paul on that, which I love. So I had this Les Paul. I bought it brand new. I've never actually been one to be sentimental about guitars, but then I just play them I just buy them brand new, unsentimentally, but I play them for so long that I felt that guitar change under my fingers because I practiced so much in that last year in 2018. And I always liked the sound of it, but I developed a love for that guitar. And I've been keeping it in Melbourne, actually. So I haven't been playing it for a while, so it'd be interesting to play that again. But a lot of the solos were on that Les Paul because I'd been working on my blues soloing, trying to bring a bit more of that, a slight little bit of the old guitar shred into it, a bit, the blues shred, so not really shred, but just playing a bit faster and trying to play solos that are a bit more exciting, that build.
Yeah. I last saw you at the Melbourne Guitar Show on the weekend. How was the guitar show experience for you?
It was great, and once again, things change when you've been in it longer. So, I've known Phil Manning for 20 years. I know Shannon Bourne. We were little kids. I remember when he first started playing with Chris Wilson, and now there we were at Port Fairy earlier in the year doing a tribute to Chris, which was very emotional for us all, because Shannon played with him for so long, and Chris was a huge influence on me. So I come back now and jam with these people, and it's just really amazing. And I'm in the middle because then there's all the young ones there too. That I see young people come up, and a guitar festival, it's interesting, especially when you leave your ego at the door and you realise there's so many beautiful guitarists who are so virtuosic, and there's so much to learn, and sometimes not to learn, just to appreciate. And everybody does something in a different way, and it was really special for me to see all of these amazing guitarists. And it's funny because the last 18 months is the first time in a very long time that I've worked so hard at improving my own musicianship. But on that particular day, I was just watching everyone else. I had hardly played. And it was really cool. It was really cool.
Yeah. So the album comes out on August 30. You've got a tour starting in October. What's happening after that into 2020 for Ash Grunwald?
Well, we're just getting the band as good as we can and trying to make it a real muso band that when you come, hopefully, we aspire for people to be blown away musically or go on a journey. And that represents the lifting of the aspirations for me a little bit, rather than it just being a party. Hopefully it's still a party, but one that you feel like how you do when you see the Cat Empire or something, where you're like, wow, that really went somewhere. And that's what we're trying to do in the band. And then we're working on America a fair bit, so we'll hopefully be doing some touring over there later in the year and into next year, and then just doing the festival thing. And for me at the moment, it's really exciting to just be playing gigs. And actually, at the moment, I'm loving the music so much, I don't actually care where they are. I just want to play a lot of gigs because I'm finding something new every gig. So, yeah, it's just a fun time.
Yeah. Ash Grunwald, thanks for your time.
Thank you.